Hey everyone, Mad Hatter here, and welcome to another Guardian Tales video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 tanks in the game. I'm going to be telling you what each tank does, on what content you want a specific tank in, and generally what tanks you should be investing in. And do realize that a lot of Guardian Tales can be played casually, so you don't have to constantly worry about meta shifts, constantly keeping up to the new best hero. It doesn't happen in Guardian Tales, so most of these guides and sort of guided analysis on heroes are just objectively better, right? They're not going to be best always. They're going to be better in certain scenarios, and some heroes, like you will see later in the video, are just generally more useful because they're easier to get, they're easier to build, and they're essentially just more efficient, right? So as I've said multiple times before, Guardian Tales can be played more efficiently or less efficiently. Don't worry if you enjoy a specific playstyle and you don't care for, playing the game in a more efficient manner. You don't have to follow everything I say, but do realize that if you want to play in a more efficient manner, generally what I say would be the best way to progress. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy this one, and I will see you all in a bit. So, what is a tank? Now, a tanker in generally games such as MMOs, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, is someone who pulls aggro, right? By pulling aggro, you can allow the rest of your squishier teammates to not get hit by skill shots, basic attacks, especially because they're less tanky. And it's the same for Guardian Tales, where you kind of need a tank because for most content, most things you are going to need a tank. It's just how it is, especially early on, because you're not going to have the sheer amount of raw stat power to just ignore hits. So do realize that, yes, it's going to be tough early on, and a tank makes it a lot easier. I've seen people say, but what if I just want to make the game harder for myself? And to that I reply, just do it. Like, no one's stopping you, but the thing is, to make the game easier, you have to do things efficiently. If you want to make it harder, once again, do it. It's up to you how you enjoy it, but don't complain when you hit a wall and blame it on the game. It's the same thing for those who complain about World 10 and 11. It's a skill issue. Sure, maybe unreleased World 10 and 11 were a tad bit overtuned, right? Yeah, I get it, complaining at that time period. But nowadays, on r/gacha gaming, it's just a bunch of idiots who just constantly argue that the game's too hard, when all they do is just brain dead pull for a character, don't know how to gear anything, and then just brain dead smash into content. Half the times when you ask them to show you their account, they'll have horrible accessories, nothing leveled up, nothing evolved, and then on the opposite end of that argument, you have, oh, but all my characters are fully geared, they're fully max limit broken, I have a full-blown team, yet why can't I beat later worlds? That's a skill issue, because one, either you're not running a properly synergetic team, which I have covered on how to make in my previous videos. Two, you're skill issuing, you're just bad at the game, man. Get better. I cannot help you if you just can't dodge. I can't make dodging guides because it's as bright as day where the enemy's going to attack. There's visible attack patterns. See those circles of red, the arrows of red? Those are skill shots. You need to dodge those, okay? So press your moving buttons instead of AFKing, auto-attacking. Realize that passages are going to be hard, and don't come into Guardian Tales thinking that, oh man, why isn't this game piss easy like every other gacha game? Because Guardian Tales' main appeal is its story, is its gameplay. Unlike other gacha games where, campaign and stuff often exists to just gatekeep you from playing content, it's not like that here. Don't treat it as such, or else you're going to be in for quite the reckoning. Now, disclaimers and everything aside, let's properly begin onto what defines a tank. Now, it's pretty much just going to be the role of tanker. Other roles, like for example support, oftentimes can be DPSs, such as for example Mayrio. She is classified as a support, but she's a DPS. However, tanks are pretty damn accurate with their labelings, right? I'm just going to list out to you the most prominent tanks. Let's begin. First is Ogma, a defense party buff generic tank. Next up is Future Princess, an HP party buff light-based tank who generally specializes in being a better tank when she is the lead character with her exclusive weapon. Then there is Craig and Ascended Craig, who are the same character. However, Ascended Craig is just literally the evolved form of Craig. He is not obtained in a different way than Craig. You simply have to obtain Craig, have him fully evolve, fully limit break him, and then you can ascend him. So he is still a rare hero. He's still super easy to obtain, and he is a Earth type generic tank. He has a defense party buff. Marina is a PvP oriented tank who no longer has a place in PvE content. She is a water type tanker who provides a HP party buff. Erina is a pure arena oriented tank who does really well in it, and she is a normal tanker hero that provides a defense party buff. The newly released Morian is a range tank that is of the earth element and provides a shield star increase at the start of the battle. Now that you know what types of tanks exist in the game, let me tell you how you're generally going to be building a tank. Now, for most tanks, with the exception of Future Princess, they don't need their exclusive EXs, except Erina, who needs it because she is a PvP hero, Marina, who needs it because she's a PvP hero, but Marina is not recommended as she is, once again, quite outdated and she is pretty much useless outside of Erina. And if I'm not going to be making disclaimers like this throughout the video because I assume you're here because you want the best advice. If you enjoy using Erina, if you enjoy using Marina, feel free to do so. There is no need to preach in the comment section about your inefficient strategies. If you enjoy them, once again, that's perfectly fine, okay? There's nothing wrong with playing the game without playing to the most meta-efficient strats. However, preaching it as it's the best strategy is not good. So Marina won't need her EX if you're using her for PvE content. However, don't use Marina for anything because you get Craig for free for clearing World 7 or from the rare gacha. Future Princess needs her EX if you're running her as your main lead in the party or if you're planning on using her for Arena. However, I have to repeat this. If you have better lead characters like Kamael, Claude, Yunha, Mariel, Beth, all those really good heroes, you absolutely do not want to mileage Future Princess's EX. Okay? It's a good EX weapon, and yeah, Future Princess is a good character still, but you don't need it. Mileage is used when you need something, when that something you're going to mileage is going to change something. Don't mileage anything that is just going to waste. Don't. It's such a pointless thing to do because it's not going to benefit you and you've just wasted dozens and dozens of thousands of gems worth of mileage. So no actual tank needs their EX. They don't. Absolutely not. Unless, they're part of the exceptions I specified. For shield, you have quite a few options. Now, your early game best in slots are going to be the Minotaur shield and the Goblin Chief shield, whichever one you end up getting first. Now, I will be making I actually have a shop guide, I believe, on my channel, so you can check that out on which one to buy first. Goblin Chief shield wasn't out during that time, but I have covered Minotaur shield in that video. So if you want to check that out, feel free to go ahead. You have multiple options early game, one of which is not in my inventory currently. You have Tanker Shield, something you get for free from completing multiple missions. I believe you get quite a few copies too, and Wyvern Shield. So Wyvern Shield you're gonna have to get from gacha. It might be on 1 or 2 stages in story. I don't exactly remember. However, it's a unique shield, so it's gonna be really easy to obtain. Don't worry about it. So those are pretty much going to be your 2 raw tanker shield options. They're super easy to obtain, super easy to max limit break, and you're not going to have any struggles obtaining them. And there's one hero where if you are running her lead, and that's Future Princess, you're going to want Mirror Shield, the unique one, not Captain Mirror Shield, not one of these. You don't want one of these, okay? You only want this if you're a new to mid game player. That's what you're going to want. Now, to address those who are mid to end game, you would want something like a Captain Mirror Shield because it makes her a lot more potent as being a lead or being an offensive character. However, for all intents and purposes, toughness shields are going to get you by, which are Minotaurs, Goblin Chief Shield, Tanker, Wyvern. There are a few, such as Aegis Shield, which you can obtain from Camazon. However, it's an absolute pain in the arse to obtain because it's 80,000 Camazon points. Plus, you have to limit break it, so you're going to need 5 more copies. It's like almost 500,000 Camazon points. It's way too painful to grind, and it's just not worth it. Don't bother with it. don't worry. It's not going to be game changing. In fact, it's not even better than the other ones. So don't worry about it. Next up is accessory. Your best in slot tank accessory is pretty much always going to be Mad Panda Brooch. It's just that good. It's super easy to obtain via the Colosseum shop. It will take some time for you to limit break, especially depending on, what you decide to buy afterwards or how you progress in the game. However, it really provides you the best outcome. It provides the most toughness in the game, and if you don't have it, or you don't want to build it first, no worries. You have multiple budgeter options, which include Black Crown Ring, which is just actually a tad bit worse. It's not a whole lot worse. However, the weapon skill regen speed will generally go to waste. You have other accessories like, for example, Ring of Damage Reduction, which is right here. Ring of Fortress, sorry. Ring of Fortress here, which is another good early game option. However, Black Crown Ring, Mad Panda Brooch are pretty much going to be your early game go-tos. Now, don't use things like Ocean Earring. Craig does not heal. Tanks don't heal, so they don't benefit from it. The heal percentage doesn't increase the amount they heal. Heal in Guardian Tales is a stat, and only healers have that stat. So only they benefit from heal percentage and flat heal values. So don't go thinking, oh, I'm going to put heal on my Craig so he heals more. That's not how the stat works. Now that you know the basic gearing, let's talk about the cards. Cards-wise, you're always going to want defense. Some people will say, use HP sometimes. Don't. Defense is always better. It scales harder too than HP because your defense value naturally is going to be much higher, and it's going to increase more off of bonuses than your base HP value, which is actually quite difficult to increase, and defense mitigates damage, so it's fundamentally just better than raw HP. For merch, you have quite a few options. If you don't have a healer, you're going to want something like a smiley face cushion. If you have a healer, for example, Maya, Little Princess figure is extremely solid. However, don't focus on these merches early on. I have a merch guide explaining what merches you might want to go for early on, so please check that out. It's somewhere on my channel. Early game, just slap on an Aoba's eye mask. Whatever element your tank is, so for Ogma, you'd want something like, Yuze's photo card. Future Princess, you'd want something like a Eugene bike figure. For Craig, you'd want Aoba's eye mask. And the reason I mentioned those three tanks is those are the only three tanks in the game that are really worth using for most people. Skin-wise, whatever skin you like. I make a joke of Forest Golem Craig being a super OP skin that makes your Craig broken. It's really not. A lot of people didn't get the joke in my previous Craig video. So it's not real. It doesn't actually do anything. It's just a really good looking skin, I think. It's why I made the joke. So sorry if you all misunderstood. Relic wise, it's whatever. It's just generally going to be what party buff you want from the relic. So don't worry too much about it, especially because it's a mid to end game activity. And I personally don't care for relics because 3-star relics will get you by fine for, 99% of content. Except if you're trying to absolutely juice out the last drops of damage for raid, trying to min-max your stats for PvP, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Let's begin on what stats you might want to roll for him. So, as you'll see, all your gear has options for stats that you can roll on it. Here, for example, let's look at Craig's EX, which is crit hit, earth attack, def, HP percentage, defense percentage, damage reduction, and skill damage. Now, other games, damage reduction often works as a percentage or as a mitigation number. So, for example, 15 damage reduction might be, 15% damage reduction in another game. However, in Guardian Tales, it doesn't work like that. It's a flat value, meaning if you were to be hit with 10,000 damage, you would instead be taking 9,985 damage instead of 10,000, which is 15 damage reduced, and that's what damage reduction does. It's not a very useful stat. It scales horribly as there's no multiplier for it, and it's horrible. Defense and HP scale so much better because most bosses are going to be dealing thousands, if not dozens of thousands of damage sometimes with their larger skill shots, which you'll be lucky to tank if you're not careful. And generally, they're going to be dealing at least thousands of DPS. So a few, 100 or few dozen damage isn't going to do anything. Your main rules here, the only rules you actually care about are defense and HP percentage. That's it. Earth attack does not matter. Damage reduction does not matter. Skill damage absolutely does not matter. Now, these stats could matter if, for example, you were using this, for example, an Earth melee raid team with Ray using silence. However, that's not a tank video topic, that's a raid video topic, and don't worry about that. That's something I just put in to the video just so you guys know that some things have other uses. And I know someone's gonna ask, do I need Craig's weapon? You don't. It essentially provides nothing, crazy beneficial. It's only useful if you're running him in arena, and even then, early to mid game arena is complete stat stick bonanza, and mid to end game, you're just going to be running better comps. I mean, don't worry about it. Now, that's what you're going to be wanting for weapon. However, it carries across the same through shields. However, there's one additional stat that's even more important, and that's the flat defense value. 304.7 defense. You want that no matter what, okay? You want that roll to be absolutely min-maxed. However, don't focus on it too much on, lower end shields such as Tanker Shield. You don't have to get it max. However, once you get something like a Minotaur or Goblin Chief Shield, max base defense roll is going to be your go-to. Damage reduction, once again, like I've mentioned, is a completely useless stat that gives you horrible returns for whatever investment you put into it. Max HP percentage, max defense percentage, as usual. Weapon skill regen, speed, and skill damage are pretty much useless for a non-lead tank. And a lead tank such as Future Princess is special. Accessory-wise, you have the same rule. Max flat defense, max defense percentage, max HP percentage. Damage reduction is once again a useless stat. So that is how you're going to want to gear your tanks just fundamentally for any content. And some people will say, but what if I'm doing DPS content? Then you're going to be wanting to run DPS heroes. Why would you be running a tank anyway? And yes, Ogma does fill that role if you have his gun EX. Ogma has 2 EXs, Ikasax, just basic the sword, which is useless outside of arena, and Ikasax mode R, which is his gun that allows him to turn into a ranged DPS. So that's the only time where a tank's actually used in DPS based content. So for the next part of this video, we're going to be talking about what tanks are actually good, what tanks you should invest in, and what tanks work with teams and proper synergies between them. And I just want to say, if you've enjoyed this video so far and you continue wanting to see more content, make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, join the community Discord, and I'll see you all in a bit. So for the sake of this video, we're going to be covering 3 tanks. Craig, a 2-star rare hero. Future Princess, a unique hero who you obtain for free after clearing World 9 in the story mode. Just normal, not Nightmare, just normal. If you're on the Switch version, you don't get her for free, I believe. So I'm not too familiar with it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you get her there. However, you still have Craig, and I know even though Craig doesn't have an Ascension there, he's still a good tank option. And we'll be covering Ogma, who is currently out on one of the banners, and he is a gacha hero, so he is going to be a bit harder to obtain than Craig or Future Princess. However, you can RNG pull him if you're lucky on any banner, but it's not a big deal. You have Craig and Future Princess as your options. The reason why I will not be covering heroes like Marina, Morian, Erina in this video is because it's simple as that. They're bad. They're that bad. And I've gotten a couple of keyboard warriors who have been saying, well, Morian's good in arena, but the issue is most arena heroes are like that. That's it. Most arena heroes are only good in arena. That's really it. And so as a even a mid-game player, you wouldn't want to be investing in arena-specific heroes that require specific comps, that require specific builds, that require specific typesets. You understand what I mean? Morian, not only does she can only be used in arena, but she requires full, essentially toughness party buff teams, so HP, defense, etc. She requires specific heroes who provide that. She requires you to be an absolute stat monster, so you're going to need, most of collection complete, because otherwise the team's just going to get one shot, right? If you're running a full-blown, tanky, balanced team, you need stats. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, you're going to get blown up if the enemy just outstats you. So it's a stat-hungry, niche specialist team that's not really easy to get into. Very, small percentage of the player base can get into it and execute it properly. And at that point, there's just better comps. You can just use better heroes, right? So Morian is bad, okay? If anyone tells you otherwise, they're wrong. Marina is, as sad as it is, she is outdated. She is simply a dated hero. She doesn't provide anything, defensive as a tanker. She's a very offensive tanker hero. Of course, she, does, have a taunt. She does have a HP party buff. But outside of that, there's not much that she does to protect the team itself. She's very offensive oriented, which is why she actually found a decent place in Arena. She's fallen off quite a bit nowadays, but back when, during Bari era, she used to be quite the monster. She sadly is no longer as good nowadays, and it's just not worth using her when you have free-to-play options such as Craig and Future Princess available, who are just significantly better. And as for Erina, Erina is a pure Arena hero, like I've said, but she's actually a really good Arena hero, compared to, for example, Morian, right? Erina works super well there, so she's not bad to pick up, but not a great investment, as outside of Arena, she accomplishes nothing. So for niche specialists like that are only good in one type of content, you don't really want to invest into them. And I know what you're going to be saying. What about Raid then, right? Don't you invest into quite a few characters for Raid? And yeah, that's true to an extent. Specific heroes like, for example, Amaris and Ogma Gun are generally Raid specialists. However, they're usable in other content such as Boss Rush, even Expedition sometimes. So yeah, they do have uses outside of that. Ogma Gun, not so much. Ogma Gun is primarily Boss Rush and Raids. However, those are still very mandatory PvE content, especially Boss Rush, that you need to do to get, the most rewards you can per reset cycle. So they are way more important, and they're way more returning on their benefits, especially when you consider that Ogma is a 2-for-1. He is a great tank and a great DPS. So as you can see, that's really where the value comes from. It's being able to be versatile and efficient at what you do. So what tank should you be using? I think the top spot goes to Craig. He is free from World 7, I believe, and you can easily obtain him from the gacha. If you haven't so already. He provides immense benefits, defense, party buff. He can tank for heroes when they're low HP. He has a really nice taunt. His kit works perfect. And yeah, it's phenomenal. And once you ascend him, he just gets even better. He is so damn good. His raw natural defensive stats are just absolutely redonkulous. They're so high. Craig can reach astronomical amounts of toughness, and he is an absolute monster. He's completely free to play, super good, can work on any team. He is not element specific. So whether you're running, a dirt team, a water team, he is damn good everywhere. So investing in him can never go wrong. I absolutely recommend you make him your first tank, unless you're running a specialized comp with Venette, Ogma, Claude, Ascended Karina and stuff like that, in which case Ogma is arguably, debatably, maybe slightly better, but even then, Craig is just so damn good at tanking. He is, by the longest shot, the best pure tank in terms of, hybridness. Ogma, you can say technically is better because he can provide DPS with his gun EX. However, even then, Craig is he's just too good at what he does to be considered any lower. And he's going to be your best in slot. Always invest in him. You can never regret it. He's useful in any content where you need a tank. Craig's always pretty much going to be your best in slot option. As I like to say, if you're dying in story, just use Craig. Or if you even use Craig and you optimize your team and everything's good and you're not trying to rush content, I think you're just skill issuing it. So fall back, recheck your gear, check up your presets, see if your heroes are actually qualified for the content, see if your team has synergies, because it doesn't matter how many new heroes you pull. It doesn't matter, how much you play the game. If your heroes aren't built, they're just not going to be doing what they could be doing or what they should be doing. So if you see, someone's Craig just tanking so much damage and yours just getting absolutely blasted, it's probably because your Craig is nowhere near as invested as theirs is. Next up is Future Princess, and the reason why she's higher than Ogma is because you get her for free for clearing World 9, which I think just makes her a lot more affordable and easy to access. And while yes, Ogma scales much better than her, because, Future Princess is a bit behind the times. However, she's still really good, especially for, Nero players and mid-game players who can't transition to other tanks and teams. But do realize that in terms of pure tanking, Craig is always 100% better. The times when Future Princess is good is when you need a slightly more offensive tanky lead. She's really good if you skill issue the game quite often, because as a tank, she has relatively decent damage for her role. She has a great one-hit weapon skill. One-hit weapon skill meaning it's a one hit into a chain skill. So you get, your combos off faster. You get your heals. You get your invulnerability off faster from her chain skill. So yeah, she is a more offensive-oriented tank, but she's also a pretty good carry through story. She can pop off in, the harder beginner worlds such as World 10 and 11. I think I'm really going to start generalizing my content more towards the mid to end game, because I think I've made a lot of enough early game guides that you guys should be caught up here. I'll still make general guides for a lot of content. A lot of them are coming up, and shameless plug once again, I know. But if you enjoy these videos, make sure to subscribe. It really motivates me and keeps the content going. Back to Future Princess, you get her for free for clearing World 9, and she is just really, really powerful. As you can see, her base defense stat is actually a lot worse than Craig's. It's about like 110 or 15 worths. So you can see where, her raw tanking power falls in compared to Craig, even when not considering Craig's passive. So if you're going to run her lead, you're going to need her EX. However, there are better lead options just straight up. So don't force yourself into Future Princess. Don't listen to people that say, oh, mileage Future Princess EX. Oh, people that just go, yeah, you have 300 mileage, just mileage Future Princess EX. Don't do that, please. Most of the time, they're just trying to give you a quick response, so you stop bothering them. Because to understand what you need to mileage, it's actually a pretty long conversation. You have to tell someone all the heroes you have, the content you plan to do, what you're trying to actually accomplish through mileaging it, what you plan to summon for. You have to understand the current banners, maybe, try to figure out what the next banners might be. So understand that. Not a pure tank. She is a more offensive, defensive carry for those who have skill issue. She's actually still relatively decent in Arena. She's fine in Colosseum still. And yeah, however, in terms of pure tankiness, Craig is just a better tank in every team, every way. Ogma is a more versatile tank that just scales better and actually even just straight up tanks better. The only reason Future Princess is still good is because she makes story and content similar to story easier for newbies who don't know how to properly pilot characters. So if you do that, there's no need to be ashamed. I'm not, making fun of you. I'm just straight up stating out the facts on what a character does, what a character enables. And this is literally why she's ranked 2, is because she's easier for newer players to pilot. And if you enjoy the game as a casual, there's nothing wrong with that. I 100% support it. Guardian Tales, in a manner, is not too friendly towards mid-game players, especially end-game players. There is essentially no content that makes you want to come back and play the game for hours because you've cleared out most of it. And so if you're a casual and you just play for story or you hop on every now and then, Future Princess is a great option. But once again, in terms of tankiness, Craig is just better. Third spot is Ogma. Once again, I'm just going to straight up say it out. In terms of tankiness, Ogma is straight up better than Future Princess because of his party buff that makes his team get additional defense if they have lower defense than him, a portion of his defense, which is, it's not defense that's being taken from him. They gain a percentage of his defense, but he actually doesn't lose anything. So if you're thinking, oh, my Ogma's going to lose toughness to give to the team, no. He doesn't lose anything. They just gain a percentage of it. His toughness stays the same. His party buff is defense, so it's not as good with Craig. However, it's still pretty damn decent because he's a good tank. In terms of pure tankiness, he falls out to Craig, who once again, as you'll see here, has almost, 80, 90 higher base defense. Craig also has the super special ability to tank for other heroes who are on low health. Ogma doesn't do that. However, Ogma's still decent in Arena, I believe. Ogma can be used against certain comps in Colosseum. Ogma is great in story, can be fine in Camazon. He has great scaling into the end game with his gun mode, where he can be used in raids on the Monodark team, where he can be used in boss rush on the Monodark team. So he has a lot of versatility and scaling. His base tank form does not need his EX, so that's a really, really good free-to-play option. It means you can just get the character and not have to worry about anything else. He slots into any team, even though he is a dark tank. He's not element bound into anything, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just a great versatile tank that scales really well. He would be high. He's actually higher than Future Princess in terms of being a good tanker character. But just because Future Princess is more newbie friendly and allowing them to play the game, she ranks a bit higher. Now, once again, heroes like Marina and all of them simply fall off because they are more outdated. They're really cool characters, really nice characters that are often fun to play with, but they just aren't as up to date as being tanks anymore. Who knows, maybe in the future they may somehow get buffed or, given additional EXs that may make them better. But for the time being, they're not doing anything now. Heroes like Morian are just, they're bad, right? Don't bother with them. Even Erina. Erina's actually pretty much the best non-main tank, such as Craig, Future Princess, Agma, because she's pretty good on Marina. However, they're not real tanks. Craig, Agma, Future Princess are just your best bets. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this one and found this helpful. I will see you all in the next one.